that's the book for me. I stand alone on the Word of God, the B-I-B-L-E, the B-I-B-L-E. Yes, that's the book for me. I stand alone on the Word of God, the B-I-B-L-E. I've been waiting all week long for Sunday to come so I can sing my song, have a little church and do our thing. Everybody's rocking to the Sunday school swing. Yeah, yeah, Sunday school swing. All right. Jehoshaphat, the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Jehoshaphat, the battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down. Jehoshaphat, the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Jehoshaphat, the battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling, tumbling down. I've been waiting all week long for Sunday to come so I can sing my song, have a little church and do our thing. Everybody's rocking to the Sunday school swing. Ooh, the Sunday school swing. He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 Kick it up now. Oh yeah. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I've been waiting all week long for Sunday to come so I can sing my song, have a little church and do our thing. Everybody's rocking to the Sunday school swing. Oh, I've been waiting all week long for Sunday to come so I can sing my song, have a little church and do our thing. Everybody's rocking to the Sunday school swing. Oh, the Sunday school swing. Jesus loves me, this I know.
Good morning, GCC kids, and welcome back to Sunday School. Well, I am so excited that you're here today because guess what? On my way to church, I witnessed something amazing. I was driving along a back road from my house that leads to church, and something flew across the road in front of me. Any guesses what it might be? Well, if you guessed bald eagle, you are right. So I pulled over alongside of the road and got out my phone to take a video of this beautiful creature I was watching and to show my family. Well, I watched this eagle fly across into a field, and what happened next was such a surprise. He flew down and shooed away a hawk who had just caught breakfast. I guess that eagle was hungry. Well, I watched him for a little bit and then I finished filming, and then I could not wait to tell someone. So I sent it to my husband, to Mr. Weand. I sent the video to my parents and my in-laws because I knew they would really enjoy hearing this story and seeing this amazing thing. You know what? I was a witness to something pretty cool, and I couldn't keep it inside because I was so excited to share it. And that is how God asks us to be in Mark 16, verse 15, about the amazing story of Jesus' sacrifice on the cross and his victory, God's victory over sin and death. So friends, let us practice our Bible verse now and really begin applying that to our lives and being a witness to what God's doing in your life, what you see him doing in the lives of others, and pointing that out. Let's practice our Bible verse, Mark 16, verse 15.
GCC. United by design, in His name we're of one mind, created for His glory, to bring His love to all creation. Called to live by faith, following His ways, so all may see and know His name. We will go tell the world, go tell the world, Jesus, we will stand united, take His word to the ends of the earth. We will go tell the world, go tell the world, Jesus, go tell the world, Jesus Christ. The evidence of Christ in His word and in our lives, appointed in this hour to speak His truth to all the nations. Called to live by faith, following His ways, so all may see and know His name. We will go tell the world, go tell the world, Jesus, we will stand united, take His word to the ends of the earth. We will go tell the world, go tell the world, Jesus, go tell the world, Jesus Christ. No matter where we go, we will always know His love will guide the way. No matter where we go, we will tell the world He is the way. Go tell the world, go tell the world, Jesus, we will stand united, take His word to the ends of the earth. We will go tell the world, go tell the world, Jesus, go tell the world, Jesus Christ.
Hello everyone and welcome to Sunday School. We're so excited you're joining with us here today. So we have a question of the day we'd love to ask you and hear perhaps what your answer is. This way we get to know you better and for you to get to know us better as well. So the question of the day today is, do you have a household rule? So maybe something in your family that your parents or your grandparents have that is a rule that you think might be unique, or something that you just know is a rule. Maybe it's a rule you get in trouble about. They keep telling you, excuse me, this is the rule, or something else that you know that you have to follow in your family. We'll share ours here at the end of the lesson. We would love to hear maybe what some of your household rules are as well.
So for our lesson today, I want to do things a little bit different. I want you to quiz me.
Ooh, I like this.
So I have a pile of questions here, and you're gonna pull them one at a time. You're gonna ask me the question, and I'm gonna see if we can answer some of these questions about our lesson today.
I can do that.
All right.
Let me get my question reading voice on. So question 1, who wrote 1 Corinthians?
Well, 1 Corinthians is actually what our story is going to be about today, and I know that the person who wrote 1 Corinthians is Paul.
Oh, that is the correct answer. Question number 2, that is, what happened in the church of Corinth?
Well, I'm pretty sure Paul wrote a letter to the people of Corinth, and that's why we call it 1 Corinthians. And I'm pretty sure the people there, they had a lot of problems. They were very divided, and they were fighting a lot. And Paul was writing to the people of the church, to the church of Corinth, about their fighting and about them being divided.
Excellent answer. Did you know that one? It's a little bit tricky here, but you did a really good job answering that question.
Thank you.
Question number 3.
This looks like a big one.
Why was the church divided?
This is a tricky one.
You don't know divided, that we should say too. Divided
Yes.
means kind of split, so they weren't whole. They were split into different things well, that's the answer. I won't give that away. But why were they divided?
They were divided because some people thought that it was better to listen to one person's teachings about Jesus, and then another person thought it was better to listen to somebody else's, so like Paul and Peter and Apollos, and then people were fighting over who's the better teacher. So that's why they were fighting, and that's why Paul was writing to the people of Corinth. But maybe we'll get there a little bit later.
Ooh, a little tease for the future. All right.
What's our next question?
Number 4.
Ooh.
How did Paul respond to this?
Ooh, so Paul was not happy. I mean, if you guys are ever fighting with your siblings at home, I'm sure that your parents aren't very happy, because for this, Paul knew that the only person that we should be listening to and following is Jesus. And just because one teacher and another teacher might do things a different way, it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. So Paul was telling us it's okay if you have a favorite teacher. I know sometimes we have our favorite teachers in school, but as long as they are learning about Jesus and the gospel, that's what is important.
Absolutely, great answer. Number 5. What did Paul say was the most important thing?
I think I already teased this a little bit, but the most important thing is that they are preaching and talking about the gospel and about Jesus, and they're following Jesus. So like I said, it's okay that other people might teach in a different style or a different way, but as long as they are talking and preaching about Jesus, that's the most important thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. It looks like we have one final question. Question number 6.
All right.
It is the big picture question.
All right, what's the big picture question of the day?
So if you don't know, our big picture question is, what is our mission as Christians?
Our mission as Christians is to make disciples of all nations by the power of the Holy Spirit.
We hope you got that one right as well.
Wow, that was pretty challenging, but I'm glad we have this story of Paul writing a letter to the people of Corinth. Let's take a look at our video and learn more about our lesson.
Paul wrote a letter to the church at Corinth. Years after Paul helped start the church in Corinth, the believers there were facing problems. One problem was that the church was divided. The people did not always get along or agree about what was most important. The believers met in small groups and had different leaders. Some groups were arguing that their leaders were better than others. One person would say, "I belong to Paul." Another would say, "I belong to Apollos." Or, "I belong to Peter," or "I belong to Christ." Paul wanted this to stop. Is Christ divided? Paul asked. Of course not. Jesus came to bring people together as one body, brothers and sisters in God's family. Christians should not fight about which human leader has the most wisdom or strength. What is most important is the gospel. Paul said, "The word of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but it is the power of God to us who are being saved." God uses what seems foolish to the world, that is, God, the Son giving up his life for us, in order to bring salvation to the world. Paul also reminded the church that believers cannot boast about themselves or other people. No human is as wise or powerful as God. When Paul preached, he didn't use fancy words so that people would think he was smart. He simply shared the good news about Jesus. Everyone in the church is united around Jesus, who died on the cross for our sins. He is God's wisdom and power. When we remember the gospel, we can live in unity with others. Other things, like immaturity and foolishness, cause division in the church. Paul wrote his letter to help the believers in Corinth. He told them many things about how to follow Jesus. Believers should live in such a way that people see them and know they belong to Jesus. Paul told the believers in the Corinthian church to come together because of the gospel. He reminded them that Jesus saves sinners. Because of Jesus and what he has done, believers can humbly come together as one body.
I know that can be kind of confusing about why did Paul write to the people of Corinth? Why were they even fighting? But this is really helpful to know for now, whenever maybe you have somebody who goes to a different church and you visited there, but everything's fine in the church, but you just didn't like the way they taught something. Or even at school, sometimes teachers are a little bit more confusing than others. So this is a story that helps us know that differences are okay.
Absolutely. As it says in our story point for this lesson, the gospel unites all kinds of people in love.
That's a really good story point to really understand and maybe even memorize. So our question of the day actually kind of ties into our lesson today. Our question of the day is, do you have a household rule? So maybe you know a family member or like a cousin or even a friend who has a different household rule than you do, and that can be kind of confusing. But the point of a household rule is to keep you safe, keep you healthy, make you more productive. And the reason why we have rules is because whoever is in charge in your household, a parent or a guardian, or even when we're living just by ourselves, we're in charge of each other, it really helps us unite each other as a family because we love one another. So can you, Jason, think of one of our household rules that we have?
I think I can. One that I know I get in trouble for breaking a lot is closing the cereal cabinet door. Sometimes I forget and leave it open, and then I'll hear the door shut and I go, I broke the rule, I forgot to shut the cereal cabinet door. So I'm sure you probably have forgotten to close different doors maybe in your kitchen as well.
Another one that we have that sometimes it's hard for me to really follow is that we always like to do our dishes and put them in the dishwasher at the end of each night so that we can wake up to a nice clean kitchen.
With no ants.
Yes, with no ants. Because sometimes, especially the weather is getting nicer, and if you have dishes in the sink, the ants kind of come out and go to that. So we have a household rule that our dishes have to be done before we go to bed.
So yeah, so hopefully maybe you can also use this as a reminder to make sure you help clean your dishes as well, because I know your family would greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. If you have a household rule, you can share that with us, or maybe talk about the different household rules that you have together as a family with somebody in the room.
Yeah, so again, for our challenge that we have going on right now, of course, again, with this nice weather, we would love you to go out on a walk with your family. So check with your parents or your guardians to make sure that they're okay with it. But just go out and enjoy and hopefully be able to see some friends, maybe some family or some of your neighbors out enjoying a nice walk as well. So maybe throwing a game in there, finding different house colors, roof colors, or animals that you might see as a little fun challenge as you go around enjoying a nice walk with your family. But we thank you so much for always tuning in and spending some time with us. Hope you learned something special today, and we'll see you again next week.
Hey there, I'm Pastor Brian, and it's time for Questions from Kids. Rachel from Logansport, Indiana asks,
Another girl at my school is a Christian too, but we don't get along. What should I do?
You know, as we answer this question, I think it's really helpful to think about why we get along with certain people and we don't with others. You know, one of the things is a lot of times we're drawn to people who are like us. They share similar interests, so maybe it's a sport. And if two people play the same game, say soccer, you're gonna be drawn together because you have that in common. Or some other hobby. Maybe it's going to the same school, being in the same class, living in the same neighborhood. There's so many different things that connect us. And so a lot of times, if somebody has that in common, we're drawn to them. And if somebody doesn't, we're not as drawn to them. So here's the thing, when you think about it, this friend of yours in school, Rachel, who you don't necessarily get along with, you share the most important thing in common, and that's Jesus. So I'd encourage you to do this. I would encourage you to focus on that in your friendship. Talk about where you guys go to church. Talk about your favorite Bible stories. Talk about Jesus. Talk about challenges you have of living for Him. And I think if you start to do that, it may feel weird at first, uncomfortable, but if you start to do that and you start to see you have this most important thing in common, I wouldn't be surprised if you started becoming good friends. But here's the other thing. It's even okay if you never become good friends. Again, we can't be friends with everybody. As long as you guys are not unkind to one another, as long as you're not adversarial, that's okay. You don't have to be best friends. And so if you try this and you guys are just acquaintances from this point forward, that's okay. But I would encourage you, try to connect with that person, try to become friends, because especially in a school environment, anytime we have the opportunity to be friends with another person who believes in Jesus Christ, that is so, so helpful. So I'd encourage you, give it your best effort, trust in God, see what He might do, and see He might grow a great friendship for you with this other girl at school. So here's a question back for you. What are some ways you can show love like Jesus with anyone that you know?